Hello and welcome to what we pod in the shadows. We're recording here on Halloween night. Ooh, I'm Raven,
I'm Allison.
and today we will be talking about the third and fourth episodes of season 6, which are Sleep Hypnosis and The Railroad. Let's start talking about sleep hypnosis. Nadia gets home from work to find that Laszlo has filled the living room with dead body parts and is livid with him. She wants him to store the body parts in Guillermo's old room, but Nandor has already moved his workout gear in there. Laszlo is worried that between filling up Guillermo's old room and Guillermo living in his shed, Nandor will take over the whole house. They decide to vote on who gets the space under the stairs, and Nandor is outvoted, and Laszlo gets use of the space.
For some reason, Colin is crawling through the vents because I guess he just likes listening into the conversations. And there's, I don't know, some room I guess the rest of them don't know about. And he's got this bulletin board set up that's supposed to show the hierarchy in the house. And he thinks that they will ultimately kill him without Guillermo in the house.
Or worse, they'll kick him out.
Colin decides to hypnotize them in their sleep. It's like every time they bring up hypnosis, they're like, does that work?
Yeah, he gets the idea from talking to Guillermo. Well, Guillermo's like really sleepy, and he's like, that's it. I could hypnotize them while they're asleep.
I forget what he tells Nandor, but Colin wants him and Nandor to be, can't think of the word.
Allies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he basically told him to like stand his ground and that he's Nandor's only ally in the house.
So when Nandor wakes up, he's aggressive. He doesn't want to give up his exercise area, and he's speaking in his native tongue. And Nandor has been called before Nandor the Conqueror, so he's kind of reliving that again. But they're still arguing about the area under the stairs, and Nandor is like, well, if I can't have it, no one can. And so he sets the house on fire.
Yeah, and so he only is speaking in his native language, and Colin Robinson has to use his phone to help translate. But during the house fire, Nandor set Colin's phone on fire as well, so then he has to get Guillermo to use his phone to help with the translation. So Guillermo kind of has to like help the firefighters extinguish the house a little bit, and Nadia is drinking a firefighter's blood and overhears him and Colin Robinson talking about sleep hypnosis and decides to use it on Laszlo to make him tidier.
So like the body parts is like excessive. There was like just a bag of noses. Like they were everywhere, kind of like in the entrance of the house. And
Yeah.
I'm not really even sure that little area under the stairs would be a big enough place to keep them. I mean, he needs to like refrigerate them or something. They're just gonna get gross, or just go bury them.
I don't know when he needs that many body parts for his Frankenstein experiments.
The Frankenstein already has a face. Like,
Yeah.
well, I guess maybe he might, yeah, try more, but
It was so many. It was so many. And like Nandor had to like ended up spitting on the bag of noses at one point. He just thought it was a cushion.
okay, so Naja then hypnotizes Laszlo to be tidier, and he just goes overboard.
Like even like dusting the camera crew's equipment and shit too.
I'm not really sure though what he did with the body parts.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was made clear or not.
Because I mean, there's only so tidy you can make that.
So then Guillermo tries to have Colin Robinson hypnotize Nandor back into his old self, but he then decided to hypnotize Nandor into talking and acting like Richard Nixon. So he's like talking in like a Nixon voice and like quoting him and like all sorts of shit. Guillermo tries to get him to fix him for real this time, and then Laszlo overhears him talking about sleep hypnosis. And he uses this to put the other three vampires under his control and to order him a bunch of shit off of Amazon.
They sort of just don't remember this part. I remember this stuff happening. They worshipped him after he hypnotized them. Guillermo consults the Baron to unhypnotize them. They wake well slept, but having forgotten knowing each other. Like, Guillermo has to wear headphones, so he won't be hypnotized by the Baron's words. They all seem happy to meet each other and they really like the house, but then they begin arguing about who gets the space under the stairs again. So it just came full circle.
Then the guide shows up at their house and she almost immediately recognizes that they've been sleep hypnotized and she undoes the various hypnoses. Unfortunately, though, Guillermo ends up getting sleep hypnotized because he accidentally used the Baron's recording to go to sleep to instead of his podcasts. He ends up just kind of like geeking out over the vampires. He reverts back to the first day that he showed up there, having gotten an ad off of Craigslist. And once he realizes that this is a household of vampires, he wants to be one and asks to be Nandor's familiar. Again, unbeknownst to himself, Nandor is almost tempted to leave him like that, but decides he will let Guillermo sleep one more night under the stairs before undoing his sleep hypnosis.
So then they show them, it might be after the credits or in the end credits, like they're all trying to share the tiny room, which just sort of seems ridiculous.
Yeah, Andrew's got his workout equipment in there. Laszlo has his various Laszlo things in there. And for some reason, Colin Robinson hangs out this giant picture of the guy who's Ross from Friends.
Oh, yeah. Well, that didn't that in his little room.
Yes, he had that in there too.
It like didn't it cover up his bulletin board or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe he thinks the stuff that Ross says is like boring. You know how like that's how he gets drains the energy from people, so maybe he thinks Ross is like him or something. I don't know.
Maybe Ross is a secret energy vampire.
Yeah.
I've not seen much of Friends, but from what I know of Ross, that checks out.
Sure if he's like a scientist or something, because I know he's got that monkey, but
yeah, I think scientist or like an archaeologist or some shit.
Maybe I can't remember. I don't know why I can't remember, but
he's the most boring archaeologist.
So I mean that's like the end of the episode. I just have like little notes, like as far as all those body parts of Laszlo's, like how are they covering up all these? I mean, I get as vampires, they kill people, although you would think they would try to do it in a way that they wouldn't have to kill people.
They are not subtle.
Because they've been staying there for a long time in one place. Like, it's not like the Collins where they, every 10 years or whatever, they have to move somewhere else and pretend to be teenagers again. But they've got all these body parts, so he's obviously killed these people.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how they can keep that like a secret forever. And then Nandor kind of again is like flirting with the guide. So I guess I'm okay with this ship. I don't know if I've mentioned on the podcast, I don't really enjoy Kristen Shaw as the guide just because of her. I think her accent is bad. But
yeah,
the two of them could be cute, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the way she does the accent on the show either, but like another stuff like Gravity Falls, when she just has like her normal voice, it's fine. Okay, so I guess we can move on to the second episode, which is the fourth episode of the season, The Railroad.
Okay, so I have so many notes for this because, like, you kind of need all the details for it to make sense. But I'm also like, they get into the stupidest
little schemes,
I guess.
Yeah, I want to say that sitcoms for you, but like they get into even wilder shit than you would on a normal sitcom because they're vampires and they're weird and old and out of touch.
Okay, so the railroad. Jerry and the guide go over their plan to conquer the US. Everyone skips out because it sounds like it's going to go on forever. The guide kind of says something about, eventually we'll break for lunch. So they're just left with Colin and the doll.
Yeah,
The Naja doll.
yes, not just haunted doll of herself.
Okay, Nandor flirts with the guide. At Canon Capital Strategies, Naja works behind the scenes to make Guillermo popular. Nandor continues to do absolute batshit cleaning, like mopping computer monitors. The company buys a clothing company that they plan to exploit. The boss, Jordan, keeps calling poor Guillermo things like ding dong and gets irrationally mad at him and wants him to fire Nandor because he finds him annoying.
Yeah, I feel bad for Guillermo because, like, it's like he still acts the same way as he would when he was working for the vampires. Like, he just takes all the bullshit and is okay with it. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, it is not fine. Get out of there, Guillermo.
Yeah, it's like the Jordan guy will kind of throw him a bone every once in a while, a little pat on the back, but then he throws him like those little digs like ding dong.
Yeah.
Like I guess he does actually use his name Guillermo,
Yeah,
but
he seems to know his name. Like the vampires, for some reason, don't seem to know how to say Guillermo, and they'll call him Gizmo, but you don't like actively call him an insult instead of his name. Just, I guess, for some reason, Gizmo is easier for them to remember than Guillermo, which is kind of still shitty because he's lived there with them for like 15 years.
so like the Jordan guy will have him make reservations at like some shishi spot and then he's like, but I'm not really sure I'm gonna go. And then have him change it and I don't know.
Yeah, and he was like throwing shit at Guillermo.
I'm not totally sure why he puts up with it. I guess, like sometimes you just need money and I mean this was better than Panera, so
Yeah.
okay, so here's the crazy part. Back at the house, their neighbor Sean comes over while Colin and Laszlo work on the monster. So for some reason, Naja lets him in the basement while they're working on the monster. They have to hurry up and cover him up, and he kind of comments on that it smells down there. Sean asked for an interview at the railroad that they pretended to work at because he got fired from the TSA. So probably back when they first met him, they told him they worked for the railroad. I know Sean's memory is messed up, but their kind of whole situation is a little weird, like how many adults are just living there together.
Yeah.
It's a little odd.
Yeah, you don't really like see that much, like at least these days. Like I mean, like Nadja and Laszlo are like they're a married couple, but then we got Nandor, who's like a former like Genghis Khan type, and then we got Colin, who's just like a weird, boring, nerdy guy, an energy vampire.
And then,
Odd
I
mix.
mean, Guillermo too.
Yeah.
Another adult, just like, I don't know.
So I guess then because Sean is out of work and he and his wife aren't even sleeping in the same bed anymore, Laszlo agrees to help him get an interview, even though they don't actually work for the railroad. And Colin doesn't understand why he can't just erase Sean's memory. But Laszlo says Sean's memory has been erased so many times that he's practically brain dead and he can't even use the data in their little lab without help. Laszlo has to tell him to press the button. Jordan, Guillermo's boss, invites his team out for steak dinners at a place called, we think they said Modus, and he's annoyed that Guillermo still hasn't had the heart to fire Nandor.
Colin and Laszlo set up a fake office for their fake railroad called Staten Island and Southwestern Railroad. They hire actors to pretend to work there. Guillermo can't bring himself to fire Nandor. Okay, you just said that. Oh, so he advises Nandor to blend in more. Okay, so you didn't say that. You just said Jordan was mad.
Well, that was like again, like he goes to try to fire him this time, and then Nandor's just so excited, and he's just like, I still can't do it, so he tells him to blend in more.
Laszlo gives Sean info about their railroad so he can ace the interview. Nadja walks in and Laszlo explains the plan. Nandor starts facing the wall when people walk by.
He's literally trying to blend into the background.
Yeah, I don't think Guillermo explained it well to him.
Yeah.
Or maybe even just telling him to like stay out of sight. of Jordan might have even helped.
Yes.
Or like, don't clean while Jordan is there. Like, don't. I don't know.
Yeah, Nandor took it like way too literally. I almost thought maybe he'd like try to like paint himself with like camouflage and try to like hide in there or something, or like maybe he secretly has invisibility powers, but no, he's just like, I'm gonna stand up against the wall. Colin and Laszlo take Sean in for the fake interview, and the monster pretends to be their boss, Greg Smith. They decided to, as they said, kill two cats with an arrow and have the fake interview and the monster practice his people skills. Sean is oblivious to the monster's whole vibe and his limited vocabulary.
Laszlo stands by with a cattle prod just in case the monster goes crazy. The monster asks Sean various simple questions, which Sean nails. So he kind of just is asking, like, who is Sean and why the railroad? And Sean acts like they're full questions and just goes crazy. Not crazy, but he does a good job answering. At Modus, the other finance bros ask Guillermo how he climbed from the mailroom so fast. It's only been 2 weeks, and now he's a junior analyst. They eat and drink, and Guillermo tells jokes. Jordan makes a speech and calls Guillermo up and toasts him as Nandor looks on.
Yeah, Jordan like says he's proud of the team, except for the people who will be getting fired for low performance in a few months. And then he says the team is his real family, not his wife and kids. And he praises Guillermo's work ethic. And Ninder just kind of like stands there staring outside the window, and he's sad Guillermo's having a good time without him, and that he kind of considers himself Guillermo's general. The monster ends up hiring Sean for the railroad as his vice president, even though the interview was supposed to be the extent of the scheme.
So Colin's very proud of the monster. Guillermo comes home and is especially proud of himself. Nadja says she made him who he is at Canon and interrupts one of their meetings. So I guess that particular team with Jordan is called the LBO team. It's kind of confusing. I'm not sure what that stands for.
I don't know either.
And it's kind of like Naja would like to be a part of that team, and I feel like Nandor too, because like when they bought that clothing company, he's in there high fiving people, even though he's just the janitor.
Yeah, yes.
So she tries to interest them into acquiring the railroad. Colin and Laszlo show Sean his office, but he wants to see the trains when Nadja comes in with Cannon's LBO team, who immediately notice the operation is fake.
Laszlo explains that he did it all for his good friend Sean. When the Ken Capital team hear how cheap the rent is at the fake office, they get really excited and tell Nanja she did a good job finding it and that she probably won't get fired now. Sean is fired from his fake job because the railroad supposedly went under.
Jordan again tells Guillermo to fire Nandor. Guillermo realized it's about the right fit. Nandor couldn't make him a vampire, and he can't make Nandor a janitor. I mean, really, he's like this big conqueror person. So for him to try to be a janitor just didn't really make sense anyway.
Yeah, for him to have like a normal ass job.
I mean, I think he did want to fit in though. Nandor tells Guillermo he's proud of him, and Guillermo goes through with firing Nandor. Nandor says he is fine, but throws his box of belongings and yells for the crew to stop filming. Sean's self-esteem has returned, and he continues to look for work in transportation.
And for now, he's doing odd jobs for this company called TaskRabbit, which I think is a real company. I've heard of it before.
Well, it looked like he couldn't put a shelf together.
Yes, he was very bad at building shelves and probably whatever else he was doing. It just sounds like there's not much left up in there after all the times that they've had to erase his memory.
And I mean, Nandor was just kind of like humiliated to be fired by Guillermo.
Yeah, he used to be his familiar, so he's just kind of like humiliated that he's getting fired by him of all people.
I mean, I think Guillermo did cleaning around the house. Maybe he could have I don't know.
You could have asked for tips or something.
Yeah, giving him some tips, but I just think once that Jordan guy kind of focused on him, that was it. Probably even if not Guillermo, if Nandor had improved, I don't know if Jordan would have cared.
Yeah, I don't even think he noticed that Nandor did a shitty job at cleaning. He didn't like him because he was chatty.
Yeah, he would come in to clean and talk for 10 minutes. So I think I enjoyed this sleep hypnosis episode maybe better.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know, the whole railroad thing was just kind of, I guess, like convoluted. I mean, I understand why Laszlo did it because Sean kept calling him like his best friend and stuff. He just didn't want to let him down, but it just went way too far.
Yes.
But the hypnosis stuff was fun, like to see like what it would cause them to do once they woke up.
Yeah, I didn't. The shit with Nandor acting like Nixon
Oh my
was
gosh.
pretty great.
Yeah, that was really good. It was like he couldn't say anything that Nixon hadn't said in a speech. He could only speak in Nixon. Like he would try to answer Guillermo, and it would only be in some sort of phrase Nixon had said at some point.
Yeah.
So he was kind of stuck talking that way. I think he even like was Guillermo was trying to get him to say like please help me and he had to say it and like suck it to me or something.
Yeah, that's what he said. Even though they don't have like a pet, he went on about Nixon's dog Checkers.
I don't know why that's funny, but it is. Even your dog checkers. But it was like a pretty good impersonation too.
It's a pretty good Nixon. It's probably one of the few times I've seen somebody do Nixon and they don't go like,
Yeah.
you gotta wiggle those jowls.
Not sure why they hypnotized him using Nixon in the first place.
I think Colin, for some reason, found Nixon charismatic.
He probably is another one of those that would just suck the life out of the room or whatever when he gave his speech.
Yeah, probably to an energy vampire. That's charisma.
We might need to keep a list of all the people that Colin, like the guy from Ross from Friends and
His heroes, Ross from Friends and Richard Nixon.
Nixon. So Naja sold them that deal to. I guess I'm kind of like slightly confused about the whole. Almost like they buy the company to just because they want the real estate, maybe.
Something like that. Like they don't care about the fake railroad. They just want the building or whatever.
So I'm just not sure, like, going forward, well, like, what will Nandor be doing without his job? And then will this get Naja into the LBO team? What kind of the end plan here is at this Cannon Capital place? Because they do keep, it's like a recurring thing there. So,
Yeah, I'm predicting that they're gonna get so far up the ranks and then they're just gonna totally tank the company.
I kind of feel like that too. Like, they won't know what's good to buy, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe Naja will get annoyed with that Jordan and kill him because he just keeps. It's like they all want to be in his favor, but he's not a good person.
He's a huge dick. And I'm just like, you all could do better than Jordan.
And Guillermo has become pretty popular, so she might make him disappear and put Guillermo in his place.
Perhaps.
And I suppose we'll see more of the monster. I mean, is he going to be going by Mr. Smith? I feel bad he doesn't really have a name.
Yeah.
He's trying real hard.
He's trying his best, but Laszlo gave him a lobotomy or something. Well, I think what he said is he was going to take a screwdriver and just wiggle it around in there until he stopped enjoying the Latin jazz. But that's pretty much a lobotomy.
I mean, I feel like that's just how the Frankenstein monsters are anyway. Like he's just not well coordinated and having
Yeah.
all the different body parts from different people and then maybe the brain was I don't know, like they killed him, so they had to
Yeah.
shock it to life. So it's just like it's never gonna be like I don't think they can make him normal just by having him practice or whatever.
Yeah, probably won't like regain like full function. Or it'll be like we talked on the other podcast about like Grubber kind of like he could briefly kind of like contort himself and like stand up and like lightly greet himself, but then he just kind of like slumped back into his normal form. Like maybe he can have like brief spurts of that, but then he's just kind of the rest of the time just like "Rrrr."
Yeah.
I guess we'll just have to see next week what shenanigans they get into. I think the next episode is called Laszlo's Father. I don't know, it said something. Well, maybe that's spoilery. Just saying the episode description. I mean, we haven't watched it yet because it hasn't come out yet.
I mean, I guess that's fine.
I think it says something about like Laszlo's dad's ghost shows up there or something.
I feel like he's gonna be even more pervy than Laszlo.
He had to learn it somewhere.
Or maybe he kind of belittles Laszlo. Like, how come you haven't conquered the world? I guess I didn't realize that was like a vampire's goal. A lot of
Yeah.
times when we watch stuff, like we see vampire things. I don't know. I guess some things are where they want to take over the world,
Yeah,
but
Dio probably wants to take over the world, but not like the vampires from Twilight or Interview with the Vampire probably either.
I feel like at least half it's like where they're just trying to like hide and fit in.
Yeah,
But we don't know that his dad is likely not a vampire. So
yeah,
maybe he's just
just
gonna be like,
gross.
I'm not proud of you, and what are what are you doing with your life? How come you didn't have kids? Or,
Yeah,
just kind of stuff like that. Like parents, like I'm
generic parents things.
like where you're just like kind of crapping on everything instead of being proud.
You supportive of your son, his Frankenstein creature.
I don't know if I'm supportive of Laszlo though. Probably the least like of the core four vampires that I would be proud of, but
So we'll have that to talk about next week, whatever happens in that episode. I think we're just going to talk about just because the first week they unleashed upon us 3 episodes, so we split that up. So we'll probably be going back just talking about one episode at a time after this week.
otherwise we would have to skip a week. But so we just thought we'd do one a week as they come out.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for checking out our new baby podcast. If you have been enjoying the podcast and our little discussions, it would be super cool if you could subscribe and leave us a review. If you're listening to this on YouTube instead of say your Spotify or your Apple or what have you, hit the like button, leave us a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have a friend who enjoys what we do in the shadows or you'd like to get into what we do in the shadows, maybe share the podcast with them.
And again, we are kind of starting with season 6 here. It's the last season. We have watched the other seasons, but we do plan to, once we finish season 6, go back and start at season 1.
And with that, we might go back to like discussing multiple episodes at a time, and we might take like a couple weeks off to just like get a few in the tank. But yeah, thank you so much for your listenership. Until next time, remember, you're dead and out of this world. Goodbye.
Goodbye.